Imagine you're 16 years old. You walk into your house after school, expecting a normal day. Instead, you find your mother shaking with anger, your father staring at the floor, and the whole house silent, like something terrible just happened. That was the day everything changed. My name is Ethan, and when all of this happened, I was still young enough to believe that family problems always solve themselves. I thought adults argued, got upset, then moved on. I thought if something felt uncomfortable for a few days, eventually it would go back to normal. I was wrong. Back then, life was simple. I lived with my parents and my younger brother Ryan. We had a good house, enough space, enough comfort, and the kind of routine people complain about when they have it, only to miss it when it's gone. My father worked hard, my mother managed everything at home, and I spent most of my time focused on useless teenage things. Then one afternoon, I came home from school and felt something strange the moment I walked in. Nothing looked different, but the atmosphere had changed. My mother was quiet in that dangerous way mothers get quiet when they are deeply upset. My father was trying to appear calm, but I could tell something serious had happened. My brother pulled me aside and told me the news. My Aunt Sarah had been divorced that same day. Her husband had thrown her out, and she had nowhere to go. My father had already decided she would move in with us. At first, I didn't think much of it. I felt bad for her, of course. Anyone would. But sympathy is easy when the problem hasn't entered your house yet. That evening, she arrived with her son, Jason. My father welcomed them warmly and gave them the top floor of our home. He bought beds, arranged the rooms, made sure they were comfortable, and treated them as if he were rescuing people who had survived a storm. Maybe he was, but sometimes when you save people, you also bring the storm inside with them. My mother never openly fought the decision, but I could feel her resistance in small things. The silence, the sharp tone, the way she would leave the room when my aunt started talking too much. She didn't trust her, though at the time I didn't know why. For the first couple of weeks, things seemed manageable. Jason joined my school. My father treated him exactly as he treated me and Ryan. Every morning he gave us all lunch money, spoke to us equally, and made sure Jason never felt like an outsider. Looking back now, that kindness probably made Jason feel untouchable. Not long after they moved in, my father called me into his room one afternoon and asked me a question that genuinely shocked me. He asked if I had been taking money from him. At first I thought he was joking. Then I realized he wasn't smiling. Money had been disappearing from his room. Not enough to cause panic, but enough to be noticed. Small amounts taken here and there, repeatedly. I denied it immediately because I hadn't touched anything. Then he asked Ryan the same question. Ryan denied it too. My father didn't accuse us further, but I could tell he was worried. He changed where he kept the money and tried to move on. I tried to do the same. But once suspicion enters a house, everything changes. You start noticing people more. You listen differently. You pay attention to footsteps, habits, little things you would normally ignore. And the more I watched Jason, the more something felt wrong. He was too relaxed, too confident, too comfortable in a house that wasn't his. One weekend, relatives came over and everyone was distracted. Kids playing, adults talking, noise everywhere. In the middle of all that, Jason quietly disappeared for a few minutes. No one noticed. I did. I watched where he went. He headed toward my father's room. Later, when I checked, the drawer had been disturbed again. That was the first moment I truly believed Jason was the one taking the money, but I kept quiet, partly because I had no proof, partly because accusing family can destroy more than it fixes, and partly because I still didn't understand what kind of person he really was. I thought he was just stealing money. I had no idea he was about to make me the villain instead. There are moments in life when you begin to understand that truth and justice are not the same thing. Until then, I had always believed that if something was obvious enough, people would see it clearly. If someone was lying, eventually they would be exposed. If you were innocent, that would protect you. I learned very quickly that none of that is guaranteed. After I became convinced Jason was taking money from my father, I told no one at first. I wanted certainty. I didn't want to be the person who accused a relative living under our roof without proof. So I watched quietly and said nothing. But staying silent did not bring peace. The house had changed in subtle ways. My mother had become colder toward my aunt. My aunt acted increasingly comfortable, as if she had settled into the home permanently. Jason moved through the place like he belonged there. My father kept trying to keep everyone balanced, pretending things were still normal. He was the only one pretending successfully. Then, one afternoon, everything turned. My father was in his bathroom getting ready when he called out to me and asked me to go upstairs to check the water tank. If it was empty, he said, switch on the pump so the water would run again. It was a normal request. I said yes and headed upstairs. The top floor was where my aunt and Jason stayed, so I rarely went there unless I needed to. I checked the tank, turned on the pump, heard the water start moving, and began walking back down. Halfway to the stairs, my aunt stepped directly in front of me. She didn't greet me, she didn't ask why I was there, she grabbed the back of my shirt and said, with complete certainty, "So it was you." I was too confused to even respond properly. "What are you talking about?" She ignored the question and dragged me downstairs while shouting for my father. Within seconds, everyone was looking. My father came out, confused. My brother appeared from the living room. Even Jason came down after hearing the noise. Then my aunt pointed at me and announced that I had been stealing money from her bank card. To this day, I remember the feeling more than the words. It was disbelief first, then embarrassment, then anger. She spoke as though she had solved a crime. According to her, money had been disappearing from her account for days, and because she had just seen me upstairs, that was all the evidence she needed. I immediately told my father the truth. He was the one who had sent me upstairs. He confirmed it. I thought that would end the whole thing. It didn't. My aunt kept insisting. She repeated the accusation over and over, adding details, talking about withdrawal alerts, saying hundreds had already been taken. She had already decided I was guilty, and once people decide that, facts often become irrelevant. What hurt me most was not her behavior, it was my father's response. He didn't defend me strongly. He didn't demand an apology. He didn't confront her for humiliating me in front of everyone. Instead, he tried to calm the situation. He offered to repay the missing money himself. I remember standing there thinking, if he knows I didn't do it, why am I the one being left to absorb this? Jason stood nearby, watching the entire scene in silence. He looked concerned on the outside, but there was something in his expression I still remember clearly. It was the look of someone enjoying a result they helped create. Later that evening, my father came into my room and shut the door behind him. He sat beside me and spoke quietly, almost apologetically. He told me he knew I hadn't taken anything. He said he trusted me. He said he only wanted to keep the family from breaking apart further. I asked him a question I already knew the answer to. If you know it wasn't me, why did you let her accuse me? He sighed and said my aunt had already been through enough. She was ashamed, hurt, unstable. He didn't want to make her feel unwelcome. I understood what he meant, but I also understood what it cost. Peace in that house was being bought with my reputation. From that day on, something inside me hardened. I stopped caring about being polite to Jason. I stopped assuming fairness would come naturally. I stopped believing silence was noble. Because while I was being blamed for theft, the real thief was sleeping comfortably one floor above me. And the worst part was this: he knew he was getting away with it. I decided then that if the truth was ever going to come out, it wouldn't happen by accident. I would have to force it. After the accusation, I stopped expecting fairness from anyone in that house. Before that day, I still believed the situation would somehow correct itself. I thought eventually Jason would slip, my aunt would calm down, my father would realize what was happening, and things would return to normal. But once someone lies successfully, they usually become bolder, and Jason became bolder. He carried himself differently after that. There was more confidence in the way he walked through the house, more arrogance in the way he spoke, more comfort in the way he looked at me. He had learned something important. He could cause damage and face no consequences. My father still treated him kindly. My aunt acted as though nothing had happened. My mother barely hid her anger anymore. Ryan, being younger, simply sensed tension without fully understanding it. And I was left carrying something difficult to explain. It wasn't just anger, it was humiliation. Being falsely accused inside your own home changes how you move through that home. You begin to feel watched, judged, misunderstood. Every normal interaction starts feeling fake. Then came the family gathering. One of my uncles had invited everyone over for dinner. It was one of those large evenings where relatives fill the place. Older men talking loudly in one corner, women gathering in another, children running around everywhere, and trays of food constantly being brought out. I didn't want to go, but refusing would create more questions, so I went with everyone else. At first, I kept to myself. I greeted people, sat quietly, answered when spoken to, and waited for the night to end. I had no interest in conversations. Then dinner was served. As usual, the older adults ate first. Later, the younger group was called in. I sat down among cousins and relatives I had known my whole life. For a few minutes, everything was normal. Then one of my cousins looked at me, smirked, and said, "So, how's the card thief doing?" The table burst into awkward laughter. I didn't react immediately because I genuinely didn't understand what he had said. Then I looked across the room and saw Jason smiling. Not laughing loudly, not pretending innocence, just smiling. That calm, satisfied smile of someone watching a trap close exactly as planned. In that moment, everything became clear. He had told them. He had taken something that happened privately inside our home and spread it to the family. He had let people believe I was the one stealing from his mother, knowing full well he was the one taking the money himself. I felt heat rush through my body. Not the kind that makes you want to fight, the kind that comes when someone publicly tries to reduce you in front of people whose opinion once mattered. I put my food down, stood up, and walked out without saying a word. I heard someone call my name behind me, but I kept walking. I went straight outside, opened my father's car, and sat inside alone in the dark. I remember gripping the steering wheel and staring ahead, trying to calm myself. I was angry, yes, but beneath the anger was something deeper. Disappointment. Not in Jason. By then, I expected nothing from him. I was disappointed in everyone else. How easily people accept a story when it is entertaining. How quickly they laugh when someone else is being humiliated. How rarely anyone asks whether it is true. After some time, my father came outside looking for me. When he found me in the car, he opened the door and asked what happened. I told him everything. I told him what was said. I told him Jason had clearly spread the story. I told him I was tired of being treated like the guilty one. For the first time in weeks, my father looked genuinely angry, not at me, at the situation. He told me to stay where I was and walked back inside. A few minutes later, he returned with Jason. The confidence Jason usually carried was gone. He looked uneasy now. My father stood there and spoke in a firm tone I had not heard in a long time. He told Jason that whatever happened inside the house was not to be taken outside the house. He said family matters were not gossip. He said humiliating someone publicly was shameful. Then he told him to apologize. Jason turned to me and said, "I'm sorry." He even held out his hand. I shook it, but I felt nothing, because some apologies are not remorse, they are strategy. That night, when we returned home, I knew something had changed. My father had finally seen a glimpse of Jason's true nature, but it was only a glimpse. The full truth was still coming, and when it arrived, it would destroy every lie in one night. After the family gathering, the atmosphere in our house became even more strained. Nothing was openly discussed, but everyone felt it. My father spoke less. My mother had reached the point where she no longer pretended to tolerate my aunt. Jason became quieter for a few days, but not because he had changed. It was the quietness of someone waiting for attention to move elsewhere. And eventually, it did. People are like that. They get angry, then tired, then distracted. My father returned to work. My mother focused on the house. Ryan went back to normal teenage life. My aunt behaved as if the incident at the family dinner had been a misunderstanding everyone should now forget. Only I remained watchful. I had learned enough by then to understand something simple. People who get away with wrongdoing rarely stop on their own. They only stop when they are exposed. so I kept observing Jason without making it obvious. I noticed when he disappeared for a few minutes. I noticed when he suddenly had cash. I noticed how often he came and went from the top floor, sometimes pretending to search for something, sometimes leaving the house for no clear reason. Then one afternoon, chance finally did what honesty had failed to do. I was in the living room with my mother when my aunt came downstairs upset. She was holding her handbag and searching through it in frustration. She said her bank card was missing. My mother looked at her coldly and asked the obvious question: when had she last seen it? My aunt gave 3 different answers in less than a minute. Maybe in the bag, maybe on the dresser, maybe near the bed upstairs. That alone told me she had no idea where it really was. Then she said something that made my mother's expression harden immediately. She said, "Check Ethan's room first." Even now, years later, I remember how insulting that felt, not because I cared what she thought of me anymore, but because some people become so comfortable accusing the innocent that they stop hearing themselves. My mother stood up instantly. She told her if any room was going to be searched, then every room would be searched equally. Mine, Jason's, theirs, everyone's. For once, my aunt agreed, probably because she was certain the outcome would support her. We all went upstairs. My room was searched first. Drawers opened, shelves checked, bags inspected. Nothing. No card, no money, no proof of anything. My aunt looked irritated, but not embarrassed. People who accuse easily rarely feel shame when they are wrong. Then attention shifted toward Jason. At first, he laughed it off. He said there was no point. He said everyone already knew he would never take from his own mother. My mother told him to empty his pockets. He hesitated. That hesitation changed the room. It was small, maybe 1 second, maybe 2, but everyone noticed it. Then he slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out folded cash, not unusual on its own. Then more cash. Then finally, after a pause long enough to reveal everything, he pulled out the bank card, his mother's card. The room went silent. I still remember the expression on my aunt's face. It wasn't anger first, it was shock, because until that moment, even she had believed her own story. Jason immediately began talking fast. He said he meant to return it. He said he only borrowed it. He said he needed money and didn't know how to ask. He said anything a trapped person says when the exit disappears. Then my aunt slapped him, hard, then again. Years of frustration, embarrassment, denial, and humiliation poured out in those few seconds. She shouted at him, cried, cursed him, demanded answers. Jason backed away like a child, not the confident manipulator he had been for months. He ran upstairs and locked himself in his room. No one followed him. There was nothing left to say. My aunt then turned toward me. Her voice had changed completely. She apologized again and again. She said she had wronged me. She said she never imagined Jason could do this. She said she was ashamed. I listened quietly. But apologies after public humiliation do not repair what public humiliation damages. My mother said very little. She simply looked at my father as if to say, "This is what I warned you about from the beginning." When my father came home later that day, we told him everything. He was silent for a long time after hearing it. Then he said something simple. We should have ended this earlier. That night, he spoke privately with my aunt. 2 days later, she and Jason moved out to stay with another relative. No shouting, no dramatic farewell. Just packed bags, lowered eyes, and a house suddenly breathing again. When they left, the peace returned almost immediately. The tension that had lived in our walls disappeared so fast, it made me realize how heavy it had become. I thought that was the end of the story. I thought Jason was just a dishonest boy who caused chaos in one family. I had no idea life was about to take me somewhere much darker, because soon I would witness something real, something bloody, something that would change my future forever. After my aunt and Jason left, life slowly became normal again. It's strange how quickly a house can heal once the source of tension is gone. My mother became lighter, calmer. My father laughed more. Even Ryan seemed happier, without fully understanding why. The rooms felt bigger. The silence felt peaceful again instead of heavy. As for me, I focused on finishing school. Time passed, and like most young people, I started thinking about the future without really knowing what I wanted. Some days I imagined university. Other days I imagined joining the military or law enforcement. I liked the idea of discipline, purpose, and wearing something that meant responsibility. But at that age, dreams are cheap. Everyone has them. What changes a person is not dreaming, it is experience. And mine came unexpectedly. One evening, my father asked me to go with him to the old public market in town. He needed fabric from my mother, some meat from a butcher he trusted, and a few other things. I went with him casually, expecting nothing more than a boring errand. The market was crowded in the usual way. Narrow roads, people squeezing past each other, shopkeepers shouting prices, cars trying to move through spaces too small for them. It was nearly sunset, and the whole place had that dusty golden color cities get before night fully arrives. We parked and started shopping. While my father was speaking with the butcher, I suddenly needed to use the bathroom urgently. I asked where the nearest one was, and someone pointed me toward a small mosque just around the corner. I hurried there alone. Even now, I remember how empty it felt the moment I entered that side path. The market noise faded behind me. The area near the mosque was quieter, older, dimmer. I turned the corner toward the bathrooms and took only a few steps before I stopped completely. A man was lying on the ground. At first, my mind refused to understand what I was seeing. Then, I noticed the blood. He had been stabbed in the stomach. There was too much blood for confusion, too much stillness for hope. I had never seen death like that before, not in films, not in stories. Real death has a different presence. It empties the air around it. I stumbled backward immediately, my heart hammering. I turned and ran. As I rushed back toward the main path, I noticed something that would matter later. A white sedan was pulling away fast. It had been parked near the side road. The driver didn't look at me. He just accelerated and disappeared in the traffic. At the time, I didn't think killer. I only thought wrong. Everything about it felt wrong. I ran straight back to my father. He was still near the butcher shop when I reached him, breathless and pale. I told him there was a dead man near the mosque. At first, he thought I was panicking or exaggerating. Then, he saw my face. Without another word, he came with me. When we reached the scene, he understood instantly. He took out his phone and called the police while pulling me back from the area. Within minutes, patrol cars arrived. Then more officers. Then paramedics. Then investigators. The whole area transformed from an empty corner into a controlled crime scene. I stood beside my father, shaken but unable to look away. I watched professionals examine the body, check for signs of life, secure the location, question witnesses. The man was already gone. One officer approached my father first because he had made the call. Then they asked who discovered the victim. My father pointed at me. Suddenly, I became part of something much bigger than a shopping trip. They asked me what I had seen. I told them the truth. I found the man. I ran. And on my way out, I saw a white car leaving quickly. That detail changed everything. The officers immediately became more focused. They asked what type of car, what direction it went, whether I saw the driver, whether I noticed anything unusual. I answered carefully. I didn't want to invent anything. I only described what I truly remembered. Then they asked us to come to the station later that evening. At the station, they showed me footage from nearby streets and businesses. Traffic cameras were rare in that area, but there were enough private cameras around entrances and roads to help piece together movement. They replayed clips again and again. Cars passing, people walking, shadows, headlights. Then suddenly I saw it. The same white sedan. I recognized it instantly. The officers froze the frame and looked at me. I told them I was sure. That was the car. They thanked me and told us to go home. For the next 2 days, I couldn't stop thinking about the man on the ground, who he was, whether he had family, whether he knew he was about to die when he walked there. Those thoughts stay with you when it's the first time death stops being abstract. Then the phone rang. It was the police. They had found the suspect, and they wanted to speak to me again. I had no idea then that this murder case would become the reason my entire future changed. When the police called back, my father answered first. I still remember the way he looked at me after ending the call. There was pride in his face, but also surprise, as if he still couldn't believe that an ordinary evening at the market had turned into something this serious. They had arrested the suspect. The white sedan I identified had led them in the right direction, and after further investigation, they found the man responsible for the stabbing. They asked us to come in again, not because they needed more evidence, but because they wanted to thank us properly. My father was happier than I was. I was still shaken by everything. The image of the man on the ground had not left my mind. It followed me into sleep, into silence, into random moments during the day. But my father kept telling me something simple. You helped bring justice. At that age, those words mattered. We went to the station, spoke with the officers again, and they treated me differently this time. Not like a frightened teenager who happened to witness something, but like someone who had stayed calm enough to notice what others might have missed. Before we left, one of the officers asked me what school I attended. I told him. He smiled and said, "Good, we'll be visiting soon." I had no idea what he meant. A few days later, during the noon prayer break at school, all the students were gathered in the prayer hall as usual. We expected the normal routine: prayer, announcements, then back to class. Instead, the principal stood up and told everyone to remain seated. Then several officers entered. You could feel the room shift immediately. Students started whispering, trying to guess what was happening. Some thought someone was in trouble. Others thought maybe it was a safety lecture. Then one of the officers took the microphone. He thanked the school for allowing them to visit. He spoke briefly about responsibility, courage, and helping the community. Then he said they were there to recognize one student who had assisted in a criminal investigation. When he said my name, the whole room erupted. I still remember standing up slowly, hearing hundreds of students react at once, feeling every eye in the room on me. My friends were shouting. Some students looked shocked. Others suddenly acted as if they had always known me. I walked to the front in a daze. The officers shook my hand, handed me a plaque, and thanked me publicly. For most people, it may have seemed like a small ceremony. For me, it was a turning point, because for the first time in my life, I felt what purpose feels like. Not popularity, not attention, purpose. I realized that some people run from chaos, while others are meant to walk into it and bring order. That feeling stayed with me. When I finished school, I tried to pursue a path connected to law enforcement. It wasn't easy. Some doors closed. Some applications were rejected. I had to study other things first, build myself slowly, and keep moving when plans failed. There were years where nothing happened, years where I doubted myself, years where I thought maybe that feeling in the school hall had only been a moment, not a direction. But life is strange. Sometimes it plants a seed long before you understand what it's growing. I completed my studies, continued improving myself, and eventually found opportunities that aligned with the path I had always wanted. Investigations, criminal justice, public service. The world that once fascinated me from a distance slowly became part of my real life. And every time I stepped closer to that world, I thought back to the market, to the white car, to the officers, to the plaque in school, to the first time I understood that noticing details can matter, that staying calm can matter, that one honest action can redirect an entire future. Years later, I also understood something else. The problems with my aunt and Jason had taught me one lesson. People can manipulate truth inside a home. The murder case taught me another lesson. Truth still matters when the right people are willing to pursue it. Those two lessons shaped me more than any classroom ever did. One taught me caution, the other taught me purpose. If you had asked me as a teenager what would shape my future, I might have said university, money, connections, luck. I would have been wrong. Sometimes the moment that changes your life is one you never asked for. A walk to the bathroom, a side street, a white car pulling away, and a decision to speak up. That was the night my future quietly began.